September 23, 2024, 1:14 p.m., Eastern Mediterranean Sea. The alarm sounds across USS Gerald R. Ford. 6 Russian Su-35S fighters just launched from Khmeimim Air Base in Syria. Course, direct toward the carrier strike group. Speed, 950 kilometers per hour. Altitude, 28,000 feet. Time to intercept, 14 minutes. The air boss makes the call. Launch the alert fighters, now. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets catapult off the deck. Each pilot has less than 2 minutes from alarm to airborne. They climb hard. Afterburners light. 40,000 pounds of thrust per engine. The race is on. Navy warfare breaks down the most dangerous aerial confrontation since the Cold War ended. This tension has been building for months. June 2024. Russian military activity in Syria increases dramatically. More aircraft, more personnel, new weapons systems deployed. The Kremlin is reinforcing its Mediterranean presence. The United States watches carefully. USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group deploys to the Eastern Mediterranean in August. Official mission: conduct operations against ISIS remnants in Syria and Iraq. Launch strikes, gather intelligence, Project Power. Real mission: show Russia that the Mediterranean isn't their lake. The Russians don't appreciate it. For 3 weeks, Russian aircraft conduct aggressive intercepts of U.S. Navy planes, close passes, weapons locks, dangerous maneuvers, testing American resolve, pushing boundaries. The U.S. pilots maintain professionalism. They don't take the bait. They follow rules of engagement. They don't escalate. But everyone knows it's only a matter of time. September 23rd starts like any other day. Row 600 hours. The carrier launches morning patrols. 4 Super Hornets conduct combat air patrol over the strike group. Another 4 provide cover for strike missions over Syria. Routine operations. The E-2D Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft orbits at 25,000 feet. Its AN/APY-9 radar monitors 3 million cubic miles of airspace. Every aircraft within 350 miles shows up on the display, including Russian fighters at Khmeimim. 12:10 hours. The radar operator notices unusual activity. 6 Su-35S fighters taxi onto the runway. This is more than usual. Typically, the Russians launch 2 aircraft for patrol. 6 suggests something bigger. The Hawkeye crew reports it up the chain. The carrier air wing commander takes notice. He orders 2 Super Hornets placed on 5-minute alert, armed and ready, just in case. 12:14 hours. The Russian fighters launch, all 6, in rapid succession. The Hawkeye tracks them as they climb. The formation heads northwest initially, away from the carrier. Routine patrol pattern. Then at 12:19 hours, they turn. New heading, 280 degrees, direct toward the USS Gerald R. Ford. The strike group is 180 miles away. At their current speed, the Russian fighters will reach the air defense identification zone in 11 minutes. This isn't a patrol. This is a challenge. The air boss doesn't hesitate. Launch the alert birds. 1220 hours. The catapults fire. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets accelerate from 0 to 165 miles per hour in 2 seconds. The G-force slams the pilots into their seats. 3.5 Gs. The aircraft climb immediately after leaving the deck. Call signs, Viper 1 and Viper 2. Both pilots are experienced. Viper 1 has 1,100 flight hours in the Super Hornet, multiple deployments, weapons school graduate. He's intercepted Russian aircraft before, but never 6 at once. Viper 2 is younger, 600 hours, first deployment, but his training is flawless. Top Hook Award from his carrier qualification. Weapons and tactics instructor qualified. He's ready. The Hawkeye controller vectors them toward the Russian formation. Viper flight, your bogies bearing 085, 140 miles, 28,000 feet, tracking west. 6 contacts confirmed. Viper 1 acknowledges. His radar goes active. The AN/APG-79 AESA radar reaches out 150 miles. The Russian fighters appear on his display. 6 solid contacts. He switches tactical frequency. Viper 2, we're going weapons hot. Master arm on, safety's off, ROE alpha, weapons free if they lock us. Viper 2 copies, weapons hot. Comment if you'd fly this intercept mission, 2 versus 6 against Russian fighters. The Russian formation continues toward the carrier strike group. 1225 hours. They cross into the air defense identification zone. This is international airspace. But it's the boundary where the U.S. Navy starts paying very close attention. The carrier's air defense systems track them. Aegis radar locks on. SM-2 missiles are targeted and ready. If those Russian fighters get hostile, they won't last long. But nobody wants that. The goal is de-escalation. Show force. Maintain professionalism. Don't start World War III over the Mediterranean. Viper flight closes rapidly. 80 miles now. Both pilots can see the Russian formation on radar. The Su-35S fighters are in a combat spread. 2 pairs of 2 with 2 aircraft trailing. Standard Russian tactical formation. They're not here to patrol. They're here to intimidate. 60 miles. Viper 1 switches to guard frequency. This is the international emergency frequency. Every military aircraft monitors it. Russian aircraft bearing 085. This is U.S. Navy flight. You are approaching a U.S. carrier strike group. Identify yourself and state your intentions. Silence. The Russian fighters don't respond. They maintain course and speed, heading directly for the carrier. 40 miles now. Viper 1 tries again. Russian aircraft, this is U.S. Navy. You are entering a restricted area. Alter course immediately, or you will be intercepted. Still nothing. The Hawkeye controller comes on tactical frequency. Viper flight, your bogies are not responding. Continue intercept. Rules of engagement remain alpha. Stay professional. Viper 1 copies. 20 miles. The Super Hornets accelerate. Mach 1.2. The sonic boom is irrelevant out here over water. Speed is safety. Speed is advantage. The Russian fighters see them coming. Their radars are active. They know 2 American fighters are closing fast. This is where it gets dangerous. 12:31 hours. 10 miles separation. Viper 1 can see them now. 6 Su-35S Flanker E fighters. Russia's most advanced operational fighter. Twin engine, thrust vectoring, incredible maneuverability. These are serious aircraft, and there are 6 of them. The Russian formation splits. 4 aircraft continue toward the carrier. 2 break left to intercept the American fighters. This is an aggressive move. The Russians are dividing Viper flight's attention. 4 threats continue toward the carrier. 2 threats are now maneuvering to engage. Viper 1 makes a decision. Viper 2, take the 2 breaking left. I'll stay with the main group. Viper 2 has the 2 left. The formation splits. This is exactly what the Russians wanted. Divide the American fighters. Create multiple engagement scenarios. Maximize confusion. But Navy pilots train for this. 12:33 hours. Viper 1 closes on the 4-ship Russian formation. 2 miles. He positions his Super Hornet directly in their flight path, nose to nose. This is an intercept maneuver. The message is clear. You're not getting past me. The Russian lead aircraft doesn't deviate. He maintains course, heading straight at Viper 1. 1 mile. Closing speed over 1,000 miles per hour. This is a game of chicken at 600 miles per hour. Whoever turns first loses. Viper 1 doesn't turn. Neither does the Russian. Half mile. Quarter mile. The Russian aircraft fills Viper 1's windscreen. He can see the pilot's helmet, the weapons pylons, the national insignia. At the last second, the Russian breaks right. Viper 1 blasts through the formation. The jet wash from his aircraft rocks the Russian fighters. They scatter momentarily. The tight formation breaks apart. Point made. The Americans aren't backing down, but the Russians aren't either. Who wins this standoff? A. U.S. Navy. B. Russian Air Force. C. Nobody wins? Vote below. The Russian lead reformulates his formation. All 4 aircraft turn hard. They're coming around for another pass. This time from behind Viper 1. The hunter becomes the hunted. Viper 1 sees it coming. Viper 2, I've got 4 on my 6. How's your situation? Engaged with 2. They're aggressive but not weapons hot yet. The Hawkeye controller monitors everything. All aircraft, maintain ROE, do not fire unless fired upon. 12:35 hours. The furball begins. 4 Russian Su-35S fighters versus 1 Fa-18E Super Hornet. The odds are terrible. But Viper 1 has advantages. His aircraft has better radar, better weapons, and he's protecting a carrier strike group 60 miles behind him. He's not alone. The Russian lead locks him up. The Super Hornet's radar warning receiver screams. Locking tone. The Russian has his fire control radar on Viper 1. This is where training takes over. Viper 1 brakes hard left. 7 Gs. The G-suit inflates. Blood drains from his head. He strains against the pressure. Maintains consciousness. The Super Hornet turns inside the Russian's pursuit curve. Fighter pilot physics. Smaller turn radius wins. The Russian can't maintain the lock. His radar loses track. Viper 1 reverses. Now he's offensive. His AN/APG-79 radar locks the Russian, but he doesn't fire. Rules of engagement. Unless the Russian shoots first, Viper 1 holds fire. The Russian knows he's locked. His radar warning receiver is screaming too. He brakes hard right. The engagement resets. 2 miles separation. Both aircraft turning, looking for advantage. The other 3 Russian fighters enter the fight. They're trying to bracket Viper 1. One high, one low, one flanking. Classic Soviet-era tactics. Viper 1 maintains situational awareness. He tracks all 4 aircraft on radar and mentally. Hawkeye, Viper 1, I need backup. 4 bandits on me. Viper 1, Hawkeye, cavalry inbound. 2 minutes. 2 minutes might as well be 2 hours in a dogfight. Meanwhile, 2 miles away, Viper 2 has his own problems. The 2 Russian fighters he engaged are experienced. They're working together. One goes high, one stays low. They're trying to sandwich him. Wait for what Viper 2 does next. It's textbook. Viper 2 doesn't play their game. Instead of engaging in a turning fight, he uses the Super Hornet's radar advantage. He locks both Russian aircraft simultaneously. The AN/APG-79 can track multiple targets. Modern technology versus Cold War tactics. He switches to guard frequency. Russian aircraft, I have you locked. Break off immediately. This time they respond. In accented English, American pilot, you are in Syrian airspace. Leave immediately. That's not true. They're over international waters. But the Russians are playing the propaganda game. Viper 2 doesn't argue. Negative. You are approaching a U.S. carrier strike group. Break off now or face consequences. The 2 Russian fighters don't break off, but they stop advancing. They hold position 5 miles from Viper 2, a Mexican standoff at 30,000 feet. Back with Viper 1, the situation is deteriorating. 12:37 hours. 4 Russian fighters are now fully engaged. They're not shooting, but they're maneuvering aggressively. Close passes. Afterburner in Viper 1's face. One Su-35 flies inverted 500 feet above him. Show of dominance. Intimidation tactics. Viper 1 maintains composure. He doesn't take the bait. He flies defensively. Maintains separation. Keeps all 4 aircraft in his sensor picture. But he's burning fuel fast. Afterburner usage is high. The combat maneuvering burns gas quickly. He has maybe 10 minutes before he needs to tank. The Russians know this. They're trying to force him to disengage. Then the cavalry arrives. 12:39 hours. 2 more FA-18E Super Hornets enter the fight. Call signs, Razor 1 and Razor 2. They were on combat air patrol 40 miles away. They punched it when Viper Flight reported multiple hostile aircraft. Now it's 4 American fighters versus 6 Russian. The odds just got better. The Russian formation sees the new contacts on radar. Their tactical situation changed. 4-on-1 was favorable. 4-on-4 is not, especially against Super Hornets with better radar and weapons. The Russian lead makes a decision. He breaks off. All 6 Russian fighters turn east, back toward Syria, back to Khmeimim Air Base. The intercept is over, but the story isn't. 12:42 hours. Viper 1 doesn't pursue. He could. He has the fuel. He has weapons lock. He could chase them all the way back to Syrian airspace, but that would escalate. That would provoke. The mission is accomplished. The Russian fighters didn't reach the carrier. They didn't penetrate the strike group's defensive perimeter. They were intercepted and turned away. Mission success. Viper flight reforms. All 4 Super Hornets rejoin. They orbit at 25,000 feet, watching the Russian fighters retreat on radar. The Hawkeye controller confirms, all aircraft RTB, well done. Return to base. The adrenaline starts to wear off. The reality sets in. That was 14 minutes of the most intense flying any of them have ever experienced. And nobody fired a shot. Justified defense or dangerous escalation? Comment J for justified, D for dangerous. 1,258 hours. Viper 1 and Viper 2 trap aboard USS Gerald R. Ford. The arrested landing slams them into their seats. 140 miles per hour to 0 in 2 seconds. The tailhook catches the number 3 wire. Perfect trap. The aircraft taxi to the bow. Maintenance crews swarm. The pilots climb down from their cockpits. Legs shaky. Hands trembling slightly. The adrenaline dump is real. The air boss meets them on the flight deck. Excellent work. Debrief in 30 minutes. The pilots head to the ready room. The debrief will be intense. Every decision analyzed. Every maneuver questioned. This is how naval aviation maintains excellence. Constant evaluation. Constant improvement. But first, they replay the mission in their heads. 14 minutes. 6 Russian fighters. Multiple weapons locks. Aggressive maneuvering at 400 feet separation. Sonic booms. Afterburner duels. And 0 shots fired. That's professionalism. That's training. That's discipline. The debrief starts at 1,330 hours. The Air Wing commander presides. Intelligence officers attend. The E-2D Hawkeye crew provides their perspective. Every radio call is reviewed. Every radar track analyzed. The commander asks Viper 1, "At 12:33, when the Russian lead didn't deviate, what were you thinking?" Viper 1 responds, "That he was going to turn. Russian doctrine prioritizes self-preservation. They push hard, but they don't want casualties. I assessed he would break." "And if he didn't?" "Then I would have. ROE says avoid collision. Escalation is not authorized." The commander nods. "Correct assessment. But you cut it very close. Quarter-mile separation at closure rate over 1,000 miles per hour gives you less than 1 second reaction time." "Yes, sir. It was a calculated risk." The discussion continues. Every pilot offers perspective. Lessons are identified. Tactics are refined. By 14:30 hours, the debrief concludes. The official assessment: mission success, professional execution, no violations of rules of engagement. But everyone knows the real question. Will the Russians try again? September 24th. They do. Aero 9, 20 hours. 4 Russian Su-35S fighters launch from Khmeimim. Same profile. Same course toward the carrier. This time, the carrier is ready. 4 Super Hornets launch immediately. The intercept occurs 80 miles from the strike group. The Russians turn away before contact. Message received. September 25th. The Russians try a different approach. They send bombers. 2 Tu-22M3 backfire bombers escorted by 4 Su-35S fighters. This is a more serious threat. The bombers carry anti-ship missiles. They could engage the carrier from 300 miles away. The Navy responds with overwhelming force. 8 Super Hornets launch. The Aegis destroyers go to full alert. The carrier turns into the wind, ready to launch more aircraft if needed. The Russian formation turns back at 200 miles. They got the message. Approach the carrier and you'll face a wall of American fighters. For 2 weeks this pattern continues. Russians probe, Americans intercept. Nobody fires. Nobody escalates beyond aggressive maneuvering. It's a dangerous game. But it's a game both sides know how to play. Navy warfare has the intelligence assessment. According to military analysts, the Russian operations serve multiple purposes. First, they're testing American response times. How fast can the carrier launch fighters? How many aircraft can they put in the air? What are their intercept procedures? Second, they're gathering electronic intelligence. Every time American radars go active, Russian sensors collect the data. They learn the frequencies, the pulse patterns, the capabilities. Third, they're sending a message to the region. Russia is a Mediterranean power. They won't be intimidated by American carriers. But there's a fourth purpose that's less obvious: training. Russian pilots need experience intercepting modern fighters. The Su-35S is an excellent aircraft, but it's only as good as the pilot flying it. Confronting American Super Hornets gives Russian pilots valuable experience. The same is true for American pilots. Every intercept refines their skills, improves their judgment, builds their experience base. Both sides are training for the war nobody wants but everybody prepares for. October 2024. The pattern changes. The Russian intercepts become less aggressive, more professional. They maintain greater separation. They respond to radio calls. They follow international protocols. Something shifted. Intelligence suggests high-level diplomatic communications occurred. Perhaps the Russians realized they were pushing too far. Perhaps the Pentagon communicated consequences clearly. Or perhaps both sides recognized the danger and mutually de-escalated. Whatever the reason, the aerial confrontations become routine. Still happening, but less dangerous, more predictable. By November 2024, the USS Gerald R. Ford Strike Group completes its deployment. They depart the eastern Mediterranean. The Russians watch them go. The carrier returns to Norfolk, Virginia. The crew gets liberty. The aircraft get maintenance. The pilots get rest. But the lessons from September remain. Drop your prediction. Will Russia escalate aerial confrontations in future deployments? Navy warfare wants your strategic assessment. Let's talk about the aircraft involved in this confrontation. The F/A-18E Super Hornet is America's primary carrier-based fighter. It replaced the F-14 Tomcat in 2006. The Super Hornet is larger and more capable than the original F/A-18. It carries more fuel, more weapons, better radar. The AN/APG-79 AESA radar is the key advantage. Active electronically scanned array. It can track multiple targets simultaneously. It's harder to jam than older mechanical radars. It can function as a communications relay or electronic warfare tool. Range: 150-plus miles for fighter-sized targets. The weapons loadout for the September 23 intercept was standard. 2 AEM-120 AMRAAM missiles for beyond visual range combat. 2 AEM-9X Sidewinders for close-in fighting. The Super Hornet can carry 6 AMRAAM missiles total, but that reduces fuel capacity. For intercept missions, 2 AMRAAMs and 2 Sidewinders is the standard load. The Russian Su-35S Flanker E is equally impressive. It's a 4th-generation plus fighter. Twin engine. Thrust vectoring nozzles allow extreme maneuverability. The aircraft can perform moves that would break American fighters. But maneuverability isn't everything. The Su-35S radar is the Urbis E passive electronically scanned array. Range: approximately 250 miles against large targets, but against fighter-sized targets, it's more like 100, 120 miles. Less than the Super Hornet's radar. That's a critical disadvantage. In modern air combat, seeing first wins. The fighter that detects the enemy first can shoot first. The AESA radar in the Super Hornet provides that advantage. The Su-35S typically carries R-77 air-to-air missiles. NATO designation: AA-12 Adder. Range: approximately 80 miles. Comparable to AMRAAM, but with less sophisticated guidance. For close combat, they carry R-73 missiles. NATO designation: AA-11 Archer. These are excellent short-range missiles. High off-bore sight capability, thrust vectoring, very dangerous in a dogfight. But the September 23 intercept never got to weapons range. Both sides maintained separation. Nobody wanted to find out whose missiles were better. The E-2D Hawkeye deserves mention. This aircraft is the quarterback of carrier air operations. Its radar sees everything. It controls the intercepts. It provides early warning. The AN/APY-9 radar can detect stealth aircraft, cruise missiles, small boats. It has a 360-degree view out to 350-plus miles. Every aircraft within that range is tracked and identified. Without the Hawkeye, the September 23 intercept would have been much more difficult. The Super Hornets would have had to find the Russian fighters with their own radars. That takes time, reduces situational awareness. The Hawkeye gives American fighters an overwhelming information advantage. That's why every carrier has 4 or 5 Hawkeyes. They're airborne constantly during operations. One Hawkeye is always overhead, watching, controlling, directing. They're the reason American carrier air wings are so effective. Now let's discuss the tactics used in the engagement. Viper 1's decision to fly directly at the Russian formation was aggressive. Some might call it reckless, but it served a purpose. It showed the Russians that American pilots won't be intimidated. The nose-to-nose intercept is a Cold War tactic. U.S. pilots did it to Soviet aircraft in the 1980s. The message is clear. You're not getting past me. Turn away or we collide. It's dangerous. Quarter-mile separation at over 1,000 miles per hour combined closure rate is insane. But it works. The Russian pilot blinked first. The 4-on-1 engagement was where training mattered most. Viper 1 was outnumbered, but he maintained defensive positioning. He kept all 4 aircraft in his sensor picture. He denied them weapon solutions. This is what weapons school teaches. Energy management, situational awareness, threat prioritization. Viper 1 executed perfectly. The fact that he never fired a shot despite multiple weapons locks shows incredible discipline. Rules of engagement are clear. Don't shoot unless shot at. But in the heat of the moment, with 4 hostile fighters maneuvering aggressively, it takes enormous willpower to hold fire. That's the difference between good pilots and great pilots. Viper 2's simultaneous lock on both Russian fighters was brilliant. He used technology to overcome numbers. The Russians were trying to sandwich him. He defeated the tactic by tracking both simultaneously. Modern radar versus Cold War tactics. Technology wins. The arrival of Razorflight was critical. It changed the tactical picture. The Russians went from overwhelming advantage to parity. They assessed and withdrew. Smart decision. They proved their point. They showed they could reach the carrier's air defense zone. They forced the Americans to launch multiple fighters. Mission accomplished from their perspective. Nobody needed to die to prove who's tougher. This is how professional militaries operate. They test, they probe, they learn, but they avoid unnecessary escalation. Both sides walked away with valuable intelligence. The Americans learned how aggressively Russians will engage. The Russians learned that American pilots won't back down. Mutual respect through confrontation. The diplomatic aftermath was equally important. October 2024. The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations raises the September 23rd incident in the Security Council. Russia responds with accusations of American provocation in Syrian airspace. The debate is predictable. Each side claims the other was at fault. No resolution is reached. But the issue is now on record. Behind closed doors, different conversations occur. Military-to-military communications between U.S. and Russian defense officials. Discussions about deconfliction procedures. Establishing protocols for aerial encounters. The goal: prevent accidents, prevent misunderstandings, prevent one aggressive intercept from spiraling into actual combat. Both militaries understand this. They've been here before. During the Cold War, U.S. and Soviet fighters intercepted each other constantly. Protocols evolved, rules developed. Both sides learned to operate in close proximity without triggering war. Those lessons apply today. The September 23rd engagement reinforced them. It showed that both sides still understand the rules, still respect the boundaries. That's why nobody fired. Both sides knew where the line was. Neither crossed it. December 2024. The lessons from the Mediterranean deployment get incorporated into training. Fighter squadrons practice intercept procedures, outnumbered engagements, rules of engagement scenarios. The September 23rd engagement becomes a case study at Top Gun and Weapons School. Future Navy pilots will learn from Viper 1 and Viper 2. They'll study the decisions, analyze the tactics, prepare for their own confrontations with Russian aircraft. Because there will be more confrontations. Russia isn't leaving Syria. The U.S. isn't abandoning the Mediterranean. Carriers will deploy. Russian fighters will intercept. The pattern continues. But now both sides know the boundaries. They know what the other will do. They know when to push and when to back off. That knowledge prevents war. It maintains the uneasy peace that defines great power competition in the 21st century. Navy warfare will continue covering these operations. The intercepts that happen every day. The confrontations that test pilots and aircraft. The missions that keep the peace through strength. The September 23rd engagement was one mission. 14 minutes over the eastern Mediterranean. 2 American fighters versus 6 Russian aircraft. 0 shots fired. Mission accomplished. Everyone went home. That's success. That's professionalism. That's how you prevent World War III while still defending national interests. Subscribe to Navy Warfare, because the real stories are happening right now. In skies over contested waters, between professional militaries testing each other's resolve. This is the new reality. Not war, not peace. Something in between. And Navy pilots are flying those missions every single day.